Virtue is the quiet strength that outlasts everything else. Money, property, status, each can vanish like a passing storm. Character is the one inheritance that does not rust. Tonight we turn to a simple, steady question. Why is living with virtue the surest ground for moving through any karma? Virtue does not erase challenge. It gives us a way to meet life with clarity and compassion, step by step, moment by moment. Welcome, Moonlight Temple. In this gathering, you will hear plain, human stories and gentle Dharma reflections, showing how kindness, honesty, and restraint quietly reshape fate. You will come to see the difference between merit and virtue, why merit leaks away while virtue endures, and how every act of giving or receiving can become strength. No rituals to memorize, no background required, only the wish to live well and walk with a lighter heart. So let us begin softly. When life presses hard, which qualities hold you steady? Which words, tones, and gestures help you choose the next right step? As we move forward, hold this line close. No one can avoid trials, but a person who lives with virtue will always find a ground to stand on. When storms arrive, it is virtue that steadies the boat. If these words resonate, settle in, breathe naturally, listen gently, and let these teachings touch your own experience. At the end, share what spoke to you, and if you wish to walk this path together, kindly like, subscribe, and ring the bell for Moonlight Temple, so this quiet stream can keep flowing to those who need it. Chapter 1. Virtue, the true inheritance of human beings. Part 1. Merit and virtue, two different energies. There are two words often used in the teachings of the Buddha that carry deep meaning for our lives: merit and virtue. At first they might seem similar. Both arise from good actions, both bring blessings into our lives, and both create a sense of safety around us. But when we look more closely, we discover that they move in very different ways, and that difference can change the course of our lives. Merit is the natural result of kind or generous deeds. When you offer food to someone who is hungry, or give a donation to support a temple, or lend a hand to a neighbor in need, you generate merit. In daily life, merit often appears as the favorable conditions that surround you: having enough to eat, being healthy, enjoying supportive relationships, meeting good teachers at the right time. It is like the sunlight that helps a plant grow. Beautiful, precious, but not something we can hold on to forever. Virtue, by contrast, is the deep quality of character that remains even when circumstances change. Virtue is honesty, compassion, patience, humility, and the quiet dignity of living in alignment with what is wholesome. It does not depend on wealth, possessions, or recognition. It is like the root of a tree, hidden under the soil, unseen, yet holding everything steady when storms arrive. The Buddha often reminded his disciples that merit and virtue are not the same. Merit is helpful, but it can be exhausted. It is like water poured into a jar. At first, the jar is full, refreshing, and abundant. But with each day of use, with each small leak in the vessel, the water diminishes. Unless more is added, eventually it is gone. Virtue, however, is like a living spring. It does not run dry because it is nourished from within. The more we practice it, the deeper and clearer it becomes. Think of a person who has accumulated great merit in this life. Perhaps they are wealthy, successful, admired by others. But if that person lacks virtue, if they are dishonest, harsh in speech, or careless in their relationships, then the merit cannot protect them for long. Their wealth may bring comfort, but without the shield of virtue, they may live in suspicion, conflict, or loneliness. On the other hand, a person who lives simply, with only a little merit, but who carries virtue in their heart, gentleness, honesty, kindness will always be supported. When difficulties come, others naturally gather to help them. When storms arrive, they find protection in the respect and trust they have built. The Buddha once explained this difference using the language of the seen and the unseen. Merit is often seen: a comfortable home, a healthy body, a supportive community. Virtue is unseen. It lives in the way we respond to suffering, in the patience we show to others, in the restraint we hold when anger flares. Because it is unseen, many ignore it. Yet it is this unseen foundation that determines how long the visible blessings will last. Imagine a family that inherits great wealth. This is merit, passed down through generations. If the children grow up careless, arrogant, or ungrateful, the wealth is quickly scattered. The inheritance disappears, and with it, the comfort it once brought. Now imagine a family that inherits not much money, but a tradition of integrity, kindness, and responsibility. Even if resources are scarce, such a family will find ways to endure. The children grow up respected and trusted. Their relationships become strong. Over time, opportunities open because others sense their reliability. This is the power of virtue. The Buddha also gave a practical teaching about how merit and virtue interact. When you give something, a gift of food, money, or time, you create merit. But the way you give is what creates virtue. If you give with pride or with harsh words, the merit is diminished and no virtue is built. If you give with humility, respect, and kindness, then both merit and virtue arise together. The gift benefits the receiver, but it also transforms the giver. In the same way, when you receive something from another, the act of receiving is itself a moment of practice. If you receive with gratitude, without complaint or judgment, you build virtue. If you receive with arrogance or criticism, the chance is lost. Merit alone is fragile. Virtue is enduring. Merit may provide the stage on which our life unfolds, but virtue writes the script and directs the play. A person who understands this begins to use every ounce of merit, every opportunity, every blessing, as a way to deepen virtue. Picture two travelers. The first carries a purse of gold coins, but no compass. The second carries only a small bag of food, but also a compass and a map. When they face the wilderness, who is more likely to reach safety? The first may buy temporary comfort, but without guidance, they wander in circles until the gold is gone. The second, though modest, has direction. The map is virtue, the compass is virtue. They may walk slowly, but each step leads forward. This is why teachers across centuries have said, merit can open doors, but virtue is what allows you to walk through them with peace. Merit is the bridge. Virtue is the steady foot that crosses. Merit may bring friends to your side, but virtue is what keeps their trust. Merit may give you wealth, but virtue allows you to use that wealth without harm. If we reflect on our own lives, we can see this truth. Perhaps you have known someone whose outer fortune seemed abundant, but whose life felt empty or unstable. Perhaps you have also known someone with very little, yet who radiated peace and strength wherever they went. These examples show us that while merit is valuable, virtue is indispensable. So, how do we cultivate virtue? Not by extraordinary actions, but by steady choices in daily life. By speaking truthfully even when it is inconvenient. By acting kindly even when no one is watching. By keeping our promises. By restraining our anger. By listening with patience. Each of these is a seed of virtue. Planted again and again, they become a field that no drought can dry. Merit gives us favorable weather for a season. Virtue becomes the climate of our whole life. Merit is borrowed light, like the glow of the moon. Virtue is the sun itself, rising each day, unwavering. As we continue on this journey, remember this distinction. Merit is precious, but virtue is essential. Merit may bring comfort, but virtue brings freedom. Merit may be exhausted, but virtue endures beyond this life. The Buddha's teaching is clear. To live wisely, we must use our merit to nourish our virtue, for virtue is the true inheritance of a human being. Part 2. Stories that teach the power of virtue. Throughout history, elders have carried a wisdom that feels timeless. They knew that money, property, and possessions could vanish overnight, but that the fragrance of virtue would remain. In many places, parents and grandparents would say to their children, "Leave behind money, and it may be wasted. Leave behind books, and they may be forgotten. But leave behind virtue, and your descendants will benefit for generations." This was not superstition, it was observation, drawn from the lives they had seen unfold. Think for a moment of families you may have known. One family inherits great wealth, but within a generation or two, it disappears. Arguments break out, habits of greed take root, or careless living drains the treasure. In contrast, another family may begin with little, but the parents hand down honesty, hard work, and kindness. The children inherit a kind of invisible wealth. They are respected, trusted, and often find opportunities opening before them. This is the way virtue carries forward. It does not pass through bank accounts. It passes through character. The Buddha often reminded his disciples that wealth and status are impermanent, but virtue creates conditions that endure. In one teaching, he explained that material inheritance is fragile. Thieves may steal it, fire may burn it, water may wash it away, or conflict may destroy it. But virtue cannot be stolen, burned, drowned, or broken. It lives in the choices we make and the way others remember us. There is a simple story often told about a grandmother who lived in a small village. She had no riches, no grand possessions, and wore plain clothes. Her only treasure was a single set of prayer beads. The beads were old, made of simple seeds strung together, nothing rare or valuable. But she used them every day, quietly reciting words of compassion, patience, and forgiveness. Over years, her steady practice seemed to infuse the beads with her spirit. When people in the village fell into distress, sometimes frightened, sometimes troubled by illness, they would come to her. She would place her beads in their hands, or gently rest them on their foreheads, and many felt an unexpected calm arise. It was not that the beads themselves contained magic. It was that the virtue of her life, her steady patience, her honest kindness, had left an invisible imprint on even the simplest objects she touched. People felt that, and it gave them strength. The lesson here is subtle but profound. Virtue is not something we can see with our eyes. It does not shine like gold or glitter like jewels. Yet when virtue is present, people sense it. They feel safe, respected, uplifted, even without words. A kind elder's glance can soften anger. A patient teacher's presence can calm confusion. A parent's quiet integrity can guide a child for decades. These are not effects of wealth or luck. They are the natural fruits of virtue. Sometimes we confuse merit with virtue. Imagine a person who donates to build a temple or a hospital. That gift is great merit. But if they give with arrogance or anger, the merit may be there, yet no virtue arises. Contrast that with someone who gives only a small piece of bread, but does it with humility and tenderness. The merit may be modest, but the virtue is vast. The Buddha taught that it is not just the act, but the heart behind the act that determines its true weight. The grandmother and her beads remind us that virtue seeps into the fabric of our lives. It lingers in our words, our gestures, even in the objects we use daily. This is why the robes of monks who practiced sincerely, or the bowls of nuns who lived with integrity, were often considered sacred, not because of the cloth or clay, but because of the invisible strength carried by their virtue, we can see this even in modern life. A person may sit quietly in a room, saying little, owning nothing of great value, yet everyone feels at peace in their presence. Another may arrive with wealth, beauty, or charm, yet somehow the room becomes tense. What is the difference? It is virtue, or the lack of it. Virtue cannot be faked. It grows slowly, like a tree. It deepens with time, nourished by every small act of patience, generosity, and restraint. There is another teaching hidden in the story of inheritance. Wealth and books may be left behind, but they depend on others to care for them. Virtue, however, once planted, grows within the character of the next generation. A child raised in an atmosphere of honesty naturally speaks truth more easily. A grandchild raised by gentle hands learns to calm themselves when storms of anger rise. In this way, virtue extends beyond one lifetime. It becomes an atmosphere, a climate, that others breathe and absorb. This is why the Buddha said that virtue is the supreme protection. Soldiers and weapons may guard a palace for a time, but when armies leave, the palace falls. Virtue guards the heart endlessly. Even enemies may soften when they encounter a truly virtuous person. Even strangers may feel compelled to offer help. In the grandmother's story, she never asked anyone to believe in her. She never claimed special powers. She simply lived with integrity, and her virtue became a lamp for others. Think of your own life. Perhaps you have known a person who left behind no riches, yet their memory still guides you. Perhaps it was a teacher who believed in you, a friend who never betrayed your trust, or a parent who showed kindness in small, steady ways. The details of their possessions may be forgotten, but their virtue is not. This is what it means to leave behind a true inheritance. The Buddha's teaching invites us to consider what we are handing forward. Each word we speak, each choice we make, is like a seed dropped into the soil of tomorrow. Some seeds grow quickly and fade, others root deeply and become forests. Virtue is the forest. It shades, protects, and nourishes far beyond our own lifetime. So the question for us is simple but important. What will endure after we are gone? Our money, our status, our possessions, these will scatter, but the fragrance of our virtue will remain in the memories and habits of those who knew us. It will guide them in unseen ways, just as the grandmother's beads carried her strength long after her voice fell silent. The stories of ancestors and elders are not tales of the past alone. They are reminders of what is possible in each of us. We may never build monuments, but every act of integrity builds a bridge. We may never be famous, but every act of kindness plants a seed that will flower when someone most needs comfort. This is how virtue reshapes fate, quietly, invisibly, yet more powerfully than anything else we can leave behind. Part 3. Virtue as daily guidance for modern life. Virtue can feel like an abstract word, something far away, reserved for saints or teachers. But the truth is, virtue is lived or lost in the most ordinary moments of our daily lives. It is not about perfection, nor about belonging to a certain religion, culture, or tradition. It is about the choices we make in the middle of an ordinary day. Consider the family home. Virtue here is expressed in small gestures, a gentle word instead of a sharp one, a pause before shouting, a willingness to carry more than our share of the burden. Parents who practice patience with their children, who speak kindly even in stress, plant seeds of calm that will grow into the next generation. Children who show gratitude to their parents, who listen rather than dismiss, nourish harmony that becomes a lasting memory long after the walls of the house are gone. Virtue is not something grand. It is the simple fabric of love and respect woven each day. At work, virtue may appear as integrity, keeping one's word even when it costs something, refusing to exploit others even when the opportunity is there, being fair in both praise and criticism. These are the ways virtue manifests in professional life. The Buddha often emphasized that virtue is not separate from daily duties. A person who sweeps the floor with care, who honors their agreements, who treats colleagues with respect, is practicing the Dharma as surely as one who sits in meditation. In fact, without virtue, meditation itself becomes hollow. In society, virtue shows itself in generosity and empathy. It is the courage to extend help without expecting reward, to share what we have without keeping score. Sometimes this means offering material support. Other times, it is as simple as offering a listening ear or refraining from words that would cause harm. The Buddha taught that refraining from harm is itself an act of giving safety, giving peace. When we choose not to spread gossip, not to inflame anger, not to escalate conflict, we are quietly building a more compassionate world. There is a teaching that illustrates the difference between merit and virtue in daily giving. Imagine offering a gift to someone in need. The gift itself creates merit. But the attitude behind the gift, your tone of voice, the respect in your eyes, the patience in your manner, creates virtue. If you give money but insult the person who receives it, merit is gained, but virtue is lost. If you give with dignity, meeting the other as an equal, then both merit and virtue flourish. In this way, every act of kindness becomes an opportunity to deepen character, not only to accumulate blessings. The same principle applies to receiving. Sometimes we forget that receiving is also a practice. When someone offers you something, large or small, your manner of acceptance is a mirror of your heart. To receive with gratitude and humility builds virtue. To receive with arrogance, complaint, or indifference diminishes it. This is why teachers have often said that in every exchange of giving and receiving, both sides are being trained. Both sides are learning to polish the jewel of virtue. Modern life often tempts us to chase success without regard to virtue. We are told that cleverness is more important than honesty, that power is more valuable than compassion. But without virtue, success is fragile. The person who climbs quickly without integrity will one day find the ground beneath them collapsing. The one who moves steadily with virtue, even if slowly, walks on solid earth. This is why the Buddha taught that virtue is the true protection, more reliable than wealth, more enduring than reputation. Think of times in your own life when you were in difficulty. Who came to your side? Was it always the wealthy or the powerful? Or was it often those who carried quiet kindness, those whose character you trusted? When storms come, it is not merit alone that shelters us, but the virtue that surrounds us in the hearts of others. A single honest friend can protect you more than 100 acquaintances. A single act of compassion can ease a burden more than any amount of money. This is the umbrella of virtue, the unseen shield that holds us steady when life is hard. The Buddha once explained that merit belongs to the realm of what he called conditioned things. It can appear and disappear, rise and fall, just like wealth or health. Virtue, however, touches the unconditioned. It does not wear out. It is woven into the fabric of wisdom. A virtuous heart naturally finds peace, even when conditions are poor. A person lacking virtue may be surrounded by comfort, yet still be restless and afraid. We might ask, how do we cultivate this kind of virtue in today's world, filled with distraction and speed? The answer is always in the small things. Choosing one word of gratitude each morning, offering one gesture of kindness each day, restraining one angry impulse when it arises. These may seem too small to matter, but like drops of water filling a jar, they eventually create a reservoir of strength. The Buddha compared virtue to a field. When you plant seeds in a barren place, nothing grows. But in a well-tended field, Even a single seed can yield a harvest. Virtue is the fertile soil. Every thought, word, and action is a seed. Without virtue, even our good intentions may not take root. With virtue, even small acts flourish. There is a gentle joy in living this way. When we act with virtue, we do not need to fear the future. We do not need to constantly guard our reputation or hide our mistakes. We can walk more freely because our own heart is at peace. Others may misunderstand us, but the weight of virtue steadies us. Even if storms come, we can meet them without despair, knowing that what is deepest in us cannot be washed away. And so the invitation is simple. In family life, let virtue appear as patience and respect. In work, let it appear as integrity and fairness. In society, let it appear as generosity and empathy. Step by step, choice by choice, we build an inheritance more lasting than gold. When we leave this world, our possessions will scatter, our names may fade, but the echo of our virtue will remain in the hearts of those who knew us, in the habits of those we influenced, in the peace we helped to create. The Buddha's voice across centuries calls us back to this truth. Merit may bring comfort, but virtue brings liberation. Merit may open doors, but virtue allows us to walk through with dignity. Merit may provide shelter, but virtue is the true ground beneath our feet. In the end, virtue is not a burden, but a gift, light to ourselves and light to the world. You are listening to a gentle teaching from the Moonlight Temple series, wisdom drawn from ancient Buddhist roots, brought to life with care and presence. To fully receive the heart of these teachings, I invite you now to pause, soften the edges of your day, let your body rest, take in a slow, quiet breath, and exhale into stillness. Allow your awareness to return, not to the past, not to the future, but to this very moment. Nothing else is required, just your presence. If this offering has brought you a moment of peace, we gently invite you to support this journey by subscribing to the Moonlight Temple, sharing these teachings, or simply returning again when your heart needs rest. Every small act of presence helps this temple of silence grow. Chapter 2. Merit is exhaustible. Virtue is inexhaustible. Part 1. The nature of merit and virtue. When we look carefully at life, we begin to notice that some blessings come and go, while others seem to remain no matter what happens. A person may be healthy for a time, but health fades. A person may be wealthy for a season, but wealth can vanish. A person may be admired for talent or beauty, but admiration eventually wanes. These are forms of merit. Merit arises from good actions and supportive conditions. It provides comfort, resources, and opportunities. But like water in a leaking jar, it gradually runs out. Virtue, however, is different. Virtue is like the open sky, vast, boundless, unaffected by storms passing through. Where merit can be measured and consumed, virtue cannot be depleted. It is not stored in banks or written in contracts. Virtue is the steady strength of character that endures across time, circumstance, and even death. While merit gives us temporary shelter, virtue becomes the ground beneath our feet. The Buddha often described merit as conditioned, meaning it depends on causes and circumstances. If those causes shift, the result shifts. You might be born into wealth because of generosity in past lives, but if you squander that wealth in harmful ways, the condition dissolves. You might enjoy good health because of previous care for life, but if you mistreat your body or mind, the health fades. Merit is real and valuable, but it is fragile. Virtue belongs to a deeper realm. It is not simply the results of action, but the quality of the heart that produces those actions. When you cultivate honesty, Kindness, patience, and compassion, those qualities shape the very fabric of your being. They do not depend on outer conditions in the same way merit does. A person of virtue may be poor, yet respected and loved. They may face illness, yet bring peace to others simply through their presence. Virtue is not subject to decay in the same way wealth, health, or status are. A useful image is to picture a barrel with a crack at the bottom. You can pour water into it. Wealth, recognition, success. But slowly, drop by drop, the water escapes. This is merit. It sustains you for a while, but if you rely on it alone, you will one day find the barrel empty. Virtue, on the other hand, is like the space around the barrel. No matter how much the water leaks or is refilled, the space remains unchanged. It is not subject to loss because it is not a possession, it is a way of being. This teaching is not meant to diminish the value of merit. Merit is necessary. Without it, even basic survival can be difficult. Food, shelter, education, and safety often come from merit accumulated in the past and the present. But the Buddha urged his followers to recognize the limits of merit. Merit without virtue is like a house built on sand, beautiful for a time, but collapsing when storms arrive. Virtue provides the foundation. Imagine someone who has great merit. They are wealthy, educated, perhaps even admired. Yet if they lack virtue, if they are dishonest, unkind, or arrogant, their blessings isolate them. Friends drift away, trust erodes, and peace cannot be found. Now imagine another person with little merit. Their home is small, their possessions few, but their heart is full of patience and kindness. People naturally gather around them, offering support, friendship, and respect. Even in difficulty, they are never truly alone. This is the difference between merit and virtue. In another teaching, the Buddha explained that merit can be exhausted through use, but virtue protects and generates further merit. A generous act done with a pure heart not only creates immediate merit, but also plants seeds of virtue that continue to bear fruit. A kind word spoken with sincerity may ripple outward for years, shaping relationships long after the speaker has forgotten. This is why the cultivation of virtue is considered inexhaustible. It produces blessings that cannot be fully measured or consumed. The distinction becomes clear in times of crisis. Merit may allow someone to live comfortably for decades, but when illness strikes or death approaches, merit alone cannot provide peace. Virtue, however, brings an inner strength that no loss can take away. A person of virtue meets suffering with equanimity, meets death with dignity, and leaves behind a fragrance of goodness that comforts those who remain. We might reflect on our own lives with this understanding. When things go well, it is tempting to believe our merit will last forever. But comfort, health, and success are temporary. They are to be appreciated and wisely used, not clung to. The wiser question is, what are we doing with our merit? Are we spending it selfishly, or are we transforming it into virtue? Every opportunity, every resource, every privilege we enjoy is a chance to strengthen our character. If we use merit to build virtue, then even as the water in the jar leaks away, the space of virtue becomes vast and unshakable. The Buddha gave many images to help people see this truth. He compared virtue to the shade of a great tree. When the sun burns and the air is harsh, the tree gives coolness to anyone who comes near. Wealth can build a shelter for a time, but when the roof breaks or the walls decay, the shelter is gone. Virtue, like the tree, continues to protect without asking who deserves it. Even strangers passing by can rest in its shade. Another way to see it is to consider the body and the mind. Merit is like the body, important, necessary, but subject to aging, illness, and death. Virtue is like the mind that has been trained in wisdom and compassion. Even when the body falters, the mind can shine with clarity. At the end of life, it is not the body we carry forward, but the quality of mind, the virtue we have cultivated. When we understand merit as exhaustible and virtue as inexhaustible, our priorities naturally shift. We no longer chase only the temporary rewards of success or comfort. We begin to see each blessing as a chance to deepen patience, strengthen kindness, and polish honesty. In this way, even the fleeting joys of life are transformed into lasting treasures. This teaching is not about rejecting merit, but about seeing it in its true place. Merit is like the fuel for a journey. Virtue is like the compass. With fuel alone, we may travel far, but without direction, we become lost. With virtue as our compass, even a small amount of fuel carries us to the right destination. Merit runs out. Virtue remains. So the practice is simple but profound. Cherish the merit you have, but do not rely on it alone. Use it to cultivate virtue at every step. If you have wealth, let it teach generosity. If you have health, let it teach compassion for those who suffer. If you have status, let it teach humility. In this way, merit becomes the soil in which virtue grows, and virtue becomes the inheritance that cannot be destroyed. Part 2. Stories that reveal the difference. Stories are often the most gentle teachers. They show us truths, not as dry concepts, but as living mirrors of human experience. When we hear them, we see ourselves reflected, and the lessons enter our hearts more easily. To understand why merit fades while virtue endures, let us walk slowly through two stories, one drawn from everyday life, the other from the path of a great master. The first story is simple and painfully familiar. A man is born with much merit. From a young age, doors open easily for him. He inherits wealth from his family, enjoys excellent health, and receives an education that prepares him for influence. His career blossoms, and soon he is surrounded by luxury. This is the fruit of merit. He has sown seeds of generosity and good deeds in the past, and now the results arrive in abundance. But though his merit is great, his virtue is thin. He is quick to anger, dismissive of those beneath him, and careless with his words. He offers charity, but often with arrogance, making others feel small. He treats colleagues as tools rather than companions. At first, his wealth shields him from the consequences. People gather around him because of what he can provide. Yet as time passes, cracks appear. Trust is lost. Friends drift away. His own family grows distant, weary of his harshness. By the time illness comes, a stroke, a sudden frailty, he finds himself surrounded not by love, but by silence. The lesson is quiet, but clear. Merit built his fortune, but without virtue, the fortune could not protect him. The wealth that once drew people near could not buy trust or affection. Merit had given him the conditions for happiness, but because virtue was missing, those conditions leaked away like water from a broken jar. His story reminds us that merit alone is not enough. Without virtue, even the sweetest fruit turns bitter. Now let us listen to another story, one that shines like a lantern in contrast. Many years ago, a monk named Master Xuan Hua traveled to the United States, long before Buddhism was known there. He founded a monastery called the City of 10,000 Buddhas, on land that had once been a deserted psychiatric hospital. When he first arrived, the land seemed barren. There was no reliable source of water, and many wondered how a community could survive there. Yet Master Xuan Hua lived with unwavering simplicity and deep virtue. He prayed, chanted, and encouraged his students to live with honesty, humility, and compassion. Slowly, as they settled into the land, something remarkable happened. A spring appeared where none had been known before. water began to flow, pure and steady, enough to sustain the community. Even during years of drought in California, when farmers despaired and rivers dried, the spring at the monastery continued to provide. To this day, the water flows. How can we understand this? Was it magic? No. The Buddha's teaching reminds us that the world responds to the quality of our hearts. The land was touched by virtue, the sincerity, the discipline, the selflessness of a teacher who gave everything for the Dharma. His virtue called forth harmony from nature itself. Merit alone might have brought water from elsewhere, but virtue transformed the very conditions of the land. This is why people say virtue is inexhaustible. It creates blessings that extend beyond what the eye can see. The story of the wealthy man and the story of the master are not opposites meant to judge, but mirrors meant to guide. They show us two ways merit can be used. In the first case, merit was squandered through arrogance and unkindness, and so it leaked away. In the second, merit was invested into virtue, patience, humility, compassion, and so it multiplied, creating conditions that endure to this day. What can we learn from these stories? The Buddha's voice across the centuries reminds us, merit is not wrong, but it is incomplete. Merit is like the fuel in a lamp. It allows the flame to burn. Virtue is the clarity of the flame itself. Without fuel, the flame dies quickly. Without clarity, the flame smokes and chokes. Together, merit and virtue can illuminate the world. But if we must choose where to lean on virtue, it cannot be exhausted. When you listen to these stories, you may recall moments in your own life. Perhaps you have met someone who had every material comfort, yet whose presence felt cold, heavy, or untrustworthy. And perhaps you have also met someone who owned very little, yet whose presence felt healing, warm, and safe. That feeling is the measure of virtue. It cannot be bought, it cannot be faked, and it cannot be lost when circumstances change. The Buddha encouraged his disciples to ask themselves not only, what merit have I gained, but also, what virtue am I cultivating? He warned that merit alone can tempt us to complacency. We may think, I have wealth, I have status, I must be secure. But life is never static. Wealth may vanish in a single market crash. Status may crumble with one mistake. Health may fade overnight. Virtue, by contrast, remains steady. It walks with us into old age. It shelters us in sickness, and it comforts those we leave behind when death arrives. And so, the invitation is gentle but urgent. Use merit to plant virtue. If you are wealthy, let your wealth teach you generosity. If you are healthy, let your health inspire compassion for the sick. If you are powerful, let your power become protection for the weak. In this way, the gifts of merit do not vanish when spent, but transform into the deeper strength of virtue. Imagine the wealthy man again. If, at any point in his life, he had paused to turn his merit into virtue, if he had used his resources to serve without pride, if he had spoken with kindness instead of scorn, his story would have been different. His wealth might still have faded, but his relationships would have endured. His name might still have been forgotten in records, but the fragrance of his virtue would have remained in the hearts of those he touched. And imagine the monastery again. If Master Xuanhua had relied only on merit, he might have purchased temporary solutions. But by living in virtue, he created blessings that ripple outward still, water that nourishes not only bodies, but faith, trust, and community. Both stories whisper the same truth. Merit is exhaustible. Virtue is inexhaustible. Merit gives conditions. Virtue gives meaning. Merit fades with time. Virtue grows with use. Let us carry these stories as reminders in our daily lives. When blessings arrive, enjoy them, but do not cling. Use them as tools to carve virtue into the heart. In this way, even when the jar of merit leaks dry, the sky of virtue will remain vast, sheltering, and unending. Part 3. Lessons for daily practice. Teachings only become real when they touch daily life. Stories and principles open our hearts, but unless we carry them into how we speak, how we choose, and how we treat one another, they remain like seeds never planted. To understand that merit is exhaustible while virtue is inexhaustible is to be invited into a new way of living, using every blessing as material for the building of character. Consider what happens when merit is abundant. You may enjoy wealth, health, opportunities, or recognition. These are not wrong to receive. They are natural fruits of past kindness and effort. But the question is, what will you do with them now? If you spend wealth only on indulgence, it disappears quickly. If you use health only for chasing pleasure, it fades without depth. If you use opportunities only to climb higher, the satisfaction will prove short-lived. Merit is consumed. But if you channel each blessing into virtue, generosity, patience, honesty, compassion, then the blessing becomes more than temporary comfort. It becomes the foundation of a noble life. Imagine holding a gift in your hand. The gift itself is merit, but the way you use the gift, that is where virtue is born. If you receive with gratitude and humility, you create virtue. If you give with respect and kindness, you create virtue. The same gift, used differently, leads to opposite results. This is why the Buddha reminded his disciples that the way of giving is greater than the gift itself. Let us bring this truth into family life. In a home, merit may show as comfort, enough food, a safe house, access to education, but those conditions can still become a place of suffering if there is no virtue. A family rich in possessions but poor in patience may feel like a battlefield. Yet a family with modest means but rich in kindness may feel like a sanctuary. Virtue is the element that transforms merit into peace. In relationships, the same lesson appears. You may have the merit of charm, beauty, or talent, qualities that draw admiration. But if you treat others with arrogance or neglect, that admiration fades. If you cultivate virtue, listening deeply, speaking kindly, remaining faithful, then even as beauty and charm fade with age, the bond deepens. Merit draws people near, but virtue allows them to stay. In work, merit might give you a position of power, education, or skill. These are tools, but they are not yet the measure of a life. Without virtue, power becomes oppressive, education becomes pride, and skill becomes exploitation. With virtue, power becomes protection, education becomes service, and skill becomes generosity. The same office, the same classroom, the same hands. What differs is the heart behind them. One story from the Buddhist tradition illustrates this with striking clarity. A monk once explained that when people give alms, two things arise. Merit is created by the act of giving, but virtue is created by the manner of giving. If a person offers food to a beggar but insults them at the same time, merit is gained, but virtue is lost. If a person offers even a small amount with respect and compassion, both merit and virtue flourish together. The gift may be small, but the blessing is vast. This story shows us that virtue is not about what you give or how much you own, but how you hold your heart in the act. To practice this in modern life requires attention. Each day, we are given chances to turn merit into virtue. When you are healthy, choose to help someone who struggles. When you are educated, share your knowledge without arrogance. When you have wealth, use it to relieve suffering rather than inflate pride. When you receive kindness, respond with gratitude rather than entitlement. These small moments accumulate like drops filling an endless spring. The Buddha also spoke of the danger of using merit without virtue. He compared it to borrowing money without repaying it. Eventually, the debt comes due. A person who spends blessings selfishly consumes their store of merit quickly. But a person who uses merit to strengthen virtue multiplies blessings for the future. Virtue ensures that even when merit runs dry, peace remains. It is easy to misunderstand virtue as something abstract or unreachable. But in truth, virtue is very concrete. It is patience when you feel anger rising. It is honesty when you are tempted to exaggerate. It is humility when you are praised. It is forgiveness when you are hurt. Each of these is a practice anyone can touch, moment by moment. They do not require wealth, education, or status. They require only the willingness to live from the heart. Notice how the teaching returns again and again to the same rhythm. Merit provides conditions. Virtue gives meaning. Merit gives you the health to walk. Virtue decides where you walk. Merit gives you the voice to speak. Virtue decides what you say. Merit gives you the mind to think. Virtue decides how you use it. Without virtue, merit is wasted. With virtue, merit becomes inexhaustible. What happens when we live this way? Slowly, trust gathers around us. People feel safe in our presence. Opportunities appear not only because of what we can do, but because of who we are. Even difficulties change character. Instead of being sources of bitterness, they become training grounds for patience and compassion. When storms come, we may lose possessions, status, or health, but the fragrance of virtue remains, guiding us and comforting those around us. This is why the elders in many traditions say, merit is like wealth you can spend. Virtue is like character you carry forever. One can be taken, the other cannot. One ends with this life, the other travels with the heart into future lives. Let us return to the image of water. Merit is like a jar of fresh water. It refreshes, but if the jar is cracked, the water leaks away. Virtue is like the spring beneath the ground. As long as you care for the spring, water will continue to flow, no matter how many jars you fill and empty. To live wisely is not to despise the jars, but to tend the spring. Daily practice, then, is not complicated. Begin by noticing your blessings, your merit. Whatever you have, however small, treat it as a chance to cultivate virtue. When someone thanks you, respond with humility. When someone offends you, pause and offer patience. When life gives you more than you need, share. When life takes something away, accept with grace. These are not heroic acts, but steady steps. Over time, they form the fabric of virtue that no fire can burn, no storm can wash away. As we close this reflection, let us remember, merit is exhaustible, virtue is inexhaustible. Merit is the condition, virtue is the essence. Merit is the vessel, virtue is the fragrance. The more we use merit to build virtue, the more secure, peaceful, and meaningful our lives become. And when our personal jar of merit is empty, the spring of virtue will still flow, carrying us and those we touch into freedom. Chapter 3: Giving and Receiving, Planting the Seeds of Merit and Virtue. Part 1: The Spirit of Giving. To give is more than to hand something over. It is to reveal the heart at that moment. A gift can be small, yet radiant with kindness, or it can be large, yet weighed down with arrogance. The Buddha often reminded his disciples, the gift itself matters less than the way of giving. In this simple principle lies a profound truth, that every act of giving plants seeds, not only in the life of the one who receives, but also in the soil of the giver's own heart. When people think of giving, they often think first of material generosity, money, food, or possessions. These are important, but they are not the whole picture. A kind word is a gift. A patient silence is a gift. A moment of presence, where you truly listen, is also a gift. Even a smile offered sincerely can shift the atmosphere of a room. What matters most is not the weight of the gift, but the weight of the intention behind it. Merit arises when we give, but virtue is born in the way we give. Consider this story. A wealthy man once handed food to a hungry beggar on the street. At first, it looked like a noble deed. But as he gave, he muttered harsh words. "You are lazy. You should be ashamed of yourself." The beggar walked away with food in hand, but with a heart wounded by shame. What happened in that moment? The wealthy man created some merit by giving sustenance, but because his words were cutting, his virtue was diminished. He offered bread, but mixed it with bitterness. The Buddha would say that the act was incomplete. It did not carry the fragrance of compassion. Now consider another picture. A woman had very little herself, but one day she found a traveler exhausted and thirsty. She poured a cup of water and offered it with a gentle smile. She did not say much, but her eyes carried respect. That traveler, later, recalled not only the refreshment of the water, but also the comfort of being treated with dignity. The woman's material gift was small, but the virtue she created was vast. She gave not only water but kindness, and that kindness rippled into the heart of another being. These two images show us the delicate balance between merit and virtue. Merit can be gained whenever we give, but if the heart is clouded, the merit is like a coin dropped into a cracked jar. It leaks away. Virtue, on the other hand, is the quality that seals the jar, making the gift whole and lasting. The Buddha explained that giving is not about loss. It is not about being diminished by what we hand away. It is about creating a bridge between two hearts. When we give with arrogance, the bridge is shaky. When we give with compassion, the bridge is strong, and both sides can cross. Think of the times you have received something reluctantly, sensing that the giver did not truly wish to give. Even if the gift was valuable, did it not feel heavy? And then think of the times you received something small, yet offered with such sincerity that your heart was lifted. In those moments you see clearly. The spirit of giving is more powerful than the object itself. This is why in Buddhist teaching, the perfection of generosity, called dana, is placed first among the 6 great perfections. It is the practice that opens the heart. But generosity is not perfect when measured only by what is given. It is perfected when the giver abandons pride, expectation, or judgment, and lets kindness flow freely. In daily life, we can practice this in countless small ways. When you hold a door open for someone, do it not because you want praise, but because you recognize the shared humanity of that person. When you lend a hand to a colleague, do it not with the thought of later reward, but with the joy of helping lighten another's burden. When you give to charity, do it not with the need to be acknowledged, but with the quiet wish that suffering may ease. The spirit of giving is not only about what leaves your hand, but also about what remains in your heart. If resentment remains, the gift is incomplete. If joy remains, the gift is complete. The Buddha taught that the giver should rejoice in the act at 3 moments: before giving, by cultivating the wish to help; during giving, by offering with respect; and after giving, by releasing attachment and finding joy that someone has been benefited. Let us also remember that giving is not limited to those who have abundance. The poorest person can give a kind glance, a word of encouragement, a listening ear. Sometimes the most profound gifts are those that cost nothing but attention. A story is told of a monk who had no possessions, yet when travelers passed through his temple, he greeted them with warmth, offered them rest, and spoke words that lifted their spirits. Many years later, Those travelers still remembered not the food they ate or the roof that sheltered them, but the presence of the monk who gave himself fully in kindness. The heart that gives without calculation becomes lighter. The heart that gives with calculation becomes burdened. This is why giving is a practice, a form of meditation in action. Each time you give, you have the chance to observe your mind. Do you feel pride rising? Do you expect recognition? Or do you feel quiet joy, simply because you know someone has been helped? The Buddha reminded his disciples that even kings and wealthy patrons must learn to give with humility, or else their merit will be consumed quickly. Merit gained through giving without virtue is like a flame fed by dry grass. It burns bright but ends quickly. Merit joined with virtue is like a flame fed by oil. It burns steadily and long. So when you next give, pause for a moment. Breathe. Let the act be simple and sincere. Offer without judgment. Speak with kindness. Smile if you can. Even if the gift is small, the virtue will be vast. The spirit of giving is not bound by wealth, nor is it measured by scale. It is measured by the depth of compassion. And when compassion becomes the root of our giving, every act, whether handing food to a stranger, offering time to a friend, or sharing a word of encouragement, becomes a seed of merit that blossoms into the fragrance of virtue. In this way, giving is never truly about the object. It is always about the heart. And the heart that gives with love and humility is the heart that plants seeds which will never die. Part 2. The art of receiving. When we think of generosity, our minds often turn toward the giver. We admire those who share, who offer, who extend their hands. Yet the Buddha also taught another, quieter dimension of generosity, the ability to receive. To receive with humility and gratitude is itself a form of practice, one that nurtures both merit and virtue. Many people find it difficult to accept gifts. Some feel embarrassed, as if receiving means weakness. Others receive carelessly, without thought for the heart behind the gift. Both extremes miss the essence. True receiving is neither pride nor indifference. It is the gentle awareness that another person has extended their kindness and that your acceptance completes the circle. The act of receiving may appear passive, but in reality, it is deeply active. When someone offers, they open a door. If you slam it shut with rejection or disdain, their kindness is left wandering outside. But if you welcome it with respect, you allow the giver's seed of compassion to take root and blossom. In this way, receiving is not only for yourself, it is a gift back to the giver, affirming their intention and strengthening their heart. Imagine this scene. A neighbor brings a small basket of fruit to your home. It may not be the finest fruit, perhaps it is bruised or ordinary. If you look at it and say, "This is not very good," both you and your neighbor lose something. The neighbor feels hurt, and you have closed the door on their generosity. But if you smile and say, "Thank you, this means so much," suddenly the fruit tastes sweeter. The gift becomes more than fruit, it becomes a bond. The Buddha once explained that giving and receiving are like two wings of a bird. Without one, flight is impossible. A gift cannot truly exist until it is accepted. In this way, the receiver has a responsibility equal to the giver. To receive with gratitude is to nurture virtue in oneself and to encourage it in the other. Think about the times in your own life when someone offered you kindness, a meal, a ride, a word of comfort. Did you accept it fully, or did you brush it aside? Many of us are quick to say, "Oh, you didn't have to," or "It's nothing." While such phrases seem humble, they sometimes diminish the act. The giver's heart longs for acknowledgement. A simple, "Thank you, I appreciate this," allows their effort to shine. Receiving is also an antidote to pride. Pride says, "I need nothing from anyone." But the truth is that all beings live through countless unseen gifts: the breath of air, the light of the sun, the food grown by farmers, the roads built by workers, the wisdom carried by teachers. To live is already to receive. When we recognize this, the small gifts of daily life become radiant. Gratitude awakens, humility deepens, virtue grows quietly in the soil of awareness. One story illustrates this beautifully. A wandering monk once came to a small village. He carried nothing, surviving only on offerings. One day, a child approached him with half of a piece of bread. It was dry and rough, but it was all the child had. The monk received it with both hands, bowed gently, and ate with reverence. Years later, that child remembered the monk not because of the bread, but because of the way he received it, as if it were a treasure. The child learned that their small act had value, and their heart opened to generosity from that moment onward. The monk gave nothing material, yet his way of receiving was itself a profound gift. The art of receiving teaches us that value is not in the object but in the exchange of hearts. Even the humblest gift can become noble when received with respect. In this sense, receiving is not passive acceptance but active affirmation. I see your kindness. I honor your effort. I am grateful. Daily life offers endless chances to practice. When someone compliments you, instead of dismissing it, "Oh, it was nothing," try to receive, "Thank you, I'm glad it was helpful." When someone holds the door, rather than rushing past silently, pause, meet their eyes, and say thanks. When a child draws you a crooked picture, receive it as if it were fine art. In each case, you are teaching the other person that their kindness matters. You are also teaching your own heart to stay open. Receiving with gratitude creates joy. It multiplies what is given. The giver feels seen, the receiver feels cared for, and the bond between them deepens. Without gratitude, the gift shrinks. With gratitude, the gift expands beyond measure. Some may worry that receiving makes them indebted, but in the Buddha's teaching, this debt is not a burden, it is an opportunity. To receive today is to recognize that tomorrow you may give. Life is an endless cycle of giving and receiving. The breath itself is a teacher. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. To only exhale would be impossible. To only inhale would be impossible. Balance comes from both. In this way, gratitude becomes a form of mindfulness. To receive mindfully is to notice the giver's intention, to appreciate their effort, and to hold the moment with care. It is not only about saying words of thanks, but about truly feeling them. Gratitude is warmth that radiates back to the giver, strengthening their resolve to keep planting seeds of kindness. The Buddha taught that when receiving, 3 qualities are important: respect, joy, and humility. Respect honors the gift, no matter how small. Joy allows the heart to celebrate the connection. Humility reminds us that we depend on one another, that no one stands alone. Together, these qualities transform receiving into practice. Over time, this practice reshapes us. We become less entitled, less demanding. We begin to see abundance in places we once overlooked. A simple meal becomes precious. A friend's presence becomes enough. Even hardships reveal hidden gifts: patience, resilience, empathy. By receiving with open eyes, we discover that life itself is a continuous gift. The art of receiving, then, is not only about etiquette. It is about training the heart. It is about transforming each moment into a chance to grow in virtue. And when we receive with gratitude, we do not only honor the giver, we also honor the network of life that supports us all. So let us remember, to give well is noble, But to receive well is equally noble. To give without arrogance and to receive without pride, that is the harmony of true generosity. In this harmony, both wings spread, and the bird of compassion takes flight. Part 3. Practice in daily life. Giving and receiving are not lofty rituals reserved for saints. They are woven into the ordinary rhythm of every day. Each time we interact with another person, we stand at the threshold of an opportunity to create merit and to nurture virtue. What may look like a casual exchange, a favor, a kind word, an offered seat, a small gift, can become the very soil in which compassion grows. The Buddha often emphasized that practice must be lived, not only spoken. Generosity and gratitude are not abstract ideals. They are habits of the heart that take shape in simple actions. Imagine beginning your day with the thought, how can I give today? How can I receive today? These two questions are like lanterns, guiding us through the shadows of self-centeredness. When giving, remember to give without the weight of superiority. A helping hand should not feel like a chain. To help and then remind the other of their weakness, to say, without me you would be lost, is to turn the gift into a burden. The Buddha taught that such giving is incomplete. It creates merit, yes, but it shrinks the heart. True giving is light, like a breeze that cools without boasting that it is wind. Equally, when receiving, remember to receive without diminishing the gift. Do not say, this is too small, or you shouldn't have. Such words may seem polite, but they often rob the moment of its joy. A gift is never measured by size, but by spirit. To say simply, thank you, I value this, is to complete the circle of generosity. Gratitude polishes the gift until it shines in both hearts. Let us consider practical examples. A colleague offers you advice. If you brush it off impatiently, you shut the door on their care. If you pause, listen, and thank them, even if you later choose a different path, you have received with respect. Both of you grow. Or imagine helping a neighbor carry groceries. If you do it while sighing, the neighbor feels uneasy. If you do it with a smile, the same action becomes uplifting. Merit is in the act, but virtue is in the attitude. Another practice is to recognize that opportunities to give are blessings themselves. To have something to share, time, energy, knowledge, or resources, means that life has entrusted you with abundance. Instead of seeing generosity as loss, see it as a privilege. The Buddha once said that to give is to plant seeds in a fertile field. Every time you give with a pure heart, you scatter seeds that will grow long after the moment has passed. Likewise, opportunities to receive are also gifts. To be offered kindness is to be reminded that you are not alone. It takes humility to accept help, and that humility deepens virtue. Some resist receiving because they fear it makes them dependent. But in truth, all beings are interdependent. To breathe is to receive air. To eat is to receive the labor of countless hands. To learn is to receive wisdom handed down through ages. To receive consciously is to acknowledge this web of life and to live in harmony with it. This daily practice transforms even ordinary chores. Washing dishes can be an offering to your household. Preparing a meal can be an act of love. Listening to a friend can be a gift greater than any possession. And when you allow yourself to be cared for, to accept a kind gesture without resistance, you honor the giver's goodness and strengthen the thread of connection. There is also a subtle danger in confusing giving with control. Sometimes people give with strings attached, expecting obedience or gratitude in return. This is not true generosity. It is a disguised transaction. The Buddha warned against this trap. To give freely means to release ownership the moment the gift leaves your hands. The fruit of giving is not in how the gift is used, but in the heart that offered it. The same applies to receiving. To receive well is not to cling to what is given or to demand more. It is to let the gift pass through you like sunlight, warming you and then radiating outward. Gratitude turns every gift into a lamp, and that lamp can be carried forward to brighten another's path. Consider the ripple effect. A child receives encouragement from a teacher. That encouragement stays in the child's heart for years, shaping choices, nurturing confidence. Later, the child grows into an adult who encourages others. The teacher's small gift of words multiplies into a lifetime of kindness. Neither money nor possessions could have created such a wave, only the spirit of giving and receiving. In the practice of giving and receiving, mistakes will happen. Sometimes you may give with mixed motives. Sometimes you may fail to appreciate a gift. The point is not perfection but awareness. Each moment is a chance to begin again. If you catch yourself giving with pride, pause, and breathe humility back into your heart. If you realize you received carelessly, go back and express gratitude. These corrections are themselves seeds of virtue. Over time, this practice reshapes how we see the world. We stop dividing life into mine and yours. We begin to see life as a flowing exchange, where what is given returns in unexpected ways. The Buddha described this as the law of karma, not punishment, but the natural unfolding of seeds into fruit. When we give with love, love grows. When we receive with gratitude, gratitude deepens. So, how can we embody this in the simplest way? Begin with awareness. Before giving, ask, am I giving with a clean heart? While giving, be present. Offer with respect. After giving, release. Do not cling. Before receiving, pause. Notice the effort behind the gift. While receiving, honor it. Accept with joy. After receiving, carry it forward. Let gratitude inspire you to give again. This rhythm, give, receive, give again, is like breathing. It sustains not only individuals, but entire communities. A society rooted in generosity and gratitude is a society that thrives. Families grow stronger, friendships deepen, even strangers feel safer and more connected. At its core, the practice of giving and receiving is the practice of love. Not the dramatic love of romance or passion, but the steady love of respect, compassion, and care. It is the love that says, I see you, you matter, I wish you well. To live in this way is to plant fields of merit and orchards of virtue, harvests that will nourish not only yourself, but countless others. In the end, every act of giving and every act of receiving is a chance to awaken. It is a chance to dissolve the illusion of separation and to touch the truth of interdependence. In this truth, nothing is lost. Everything flows. To give is to receive is to give. And in this endless flow, virtue becomes the current that carries us safely across the river of life. You are listening to a gentle teaching from the Moonlight Temple series, wisdom drawn from ancient Buddhist roots, brought to life with care and presence. To fully receive the heart of these teachings, I invite you now to pause, soften the edges of your day, let your body rest, take in a slow, quiet breath, and exhale into stillness. Allow your awareness to return, not to the past, not to the future, but to this very moment. Nothing else is required, just your presence. If this offering has brought you a moment of peace, we gently invite you to support this journey by subscribing to the Moonlight Temple, sharing these teachings, or simply returning again when your heart needs rest. Every small act of presence helps this temple of silence grow. Chapter 4: Virtue as the Umbrella over Karma. Part 1: the image of the umbrella. When the rains fall, no one escapes getting wet. The downpour does not discriminate. Every rooftop, every street, every person beneath the sky feels the touch of water. Karma is much like the rain. It descends on all beings, sometimes soft as mist, sometimes heavy as storms. We cannot command the weather of karma to stop, nor can we erase the consequences of past actions. But what we can do is carry an umbrella. In the language of the Dharma, that umbrella is virtue. Virtue does not cancel the storm, yet it shelters us from its full force. Picture a traveler caught in sudden rain. Those without an umbrella are drenched, shivering, and vulnerable. Those with even a modest umbrella still get wet around the edges, but they can keep walking with dignity, their core kept dry. This is the nature of virtue. It does not promise that life will be free of trials, but it cushions the blow, softens the impact, and allows us to endure with greater calm. The Buddha often compared wholesome qualities of the mind to protective armor. Generosity, patience, honesty, compassion, restraint. These are not abstract moral codes but living shields. They stand between us and the harsh winds of consequence. Just as an umbrella protects not only the person holding it but also those walking closely beside, a life lived in virtue can extend shelter beyond the self, touching family, friends, and even strangers. To understand this more deeply, consider how karma ripens. A negative deed done in the past can bring suffering when the conditions are right, just as a seed sprouts when rain falls. Virtue cannot make the seed disappear, but virtue can change the soil around it so that the sprout grows weaker, the thorn duller, the sting less severe. A heavy karma may still arrive, yet instead of crushing us, it becomes bearable. Instead of breaking us, it becomes a lesson. This is why elders often said, "Merit sustains life, but virtue preserves it." Merit may provide wealth, talent, or opportunity, like a roof over your head, but roofs sometimes leak. Without virtue, the smallest crack can let the storm pour in. Virtue, like the umbrella, moves with you, shielding you even when the roof above is gone. Imagine two individuals, both successful in outward ways. One is wealthy, admired, and fortunate, yet careless with words, arrogant in behavior, quick to harm others when displeased. The other may have less material fortune but carries themselves with humility, kindness, and fairness. When adversity comes, as it must, the first finds few willing to stand beside them. Their fortune leaks away, leaving them exposed. The second, though struck by the same rain, is protected by the quiet umbrella of their character. Friends remain loyal, strangers offer help, and life's challenges become easier to endure. The metaphor of the umbrella reminds us that virtue is not visible in glittering form. You cannot count it like coins or display it like jewels. Yet when the skies darken, it reveals its true value. No one admires the umbrella on a sunny day, but when the storm comes, its worth cannot be denied. In daily life, this means that the habits of honesty, kindness, patience, and respect are not trivial. They are not simply being nice. They are the steady weaving of the umbrella's fabric. Each time you choose compassion over cruelty, you stitch another thread. Each time you restrain anger, you reinforce the ribs. Each time you act with fairness, you strengthen the handle. Over time, you have built a shelter strong enough to withstand the inevitable rains of karma. The Buddha's teachings often highlight this principle in simple, accessible stories. He once told of a man who lived carelessly, spending his days in indulgence, ignoring others, and causing harm. When misfortune struck, his friends abandoned him, and his wealth quickly disappeared. He was left alone, blaming fate. Another man, though not rich, spent his years practicing kindness. He shared what little he had, spoke gently, and helped where he could. When misfortune came to him, neighbors surrounded him with support, food was brought to his door, and comfort was freely given. The rain fell on both, but one was left exposed, the other protected. The difference was not luck, it was virtue. Virtue's protection is not magical, though it may feel mysterious. When a person consistently lives with honesty and compassion, they build trust. Trust is invisible, but it is as real as the umbrella's canopy. Trust ensures that when the storm arrives, others step forward to hold the umbrella with you. Without trust, even great wealth cannot buy protection. We can also think of virtue as a fragrance. A flower does not force others to enjoy its scent, but by its very nature, it refreshes the air around it. Virtue is the same. You cannot see it, but those near you breathe it in. They feel safer, more respected, more willing to extend kindness themselves. And when difficulties arise, this fragrance lingers, reminding others to stand by you. Notice too, how an umbrella, once opened, naturally covers more than one person. The same is true of virtue. When a parent lives with integrity, children grow beneath that shade. When a leader acts with fairness, the whole community feels secure. When a teacher carries patience, students blossom under the calm. Virtue radiates outward, forming circles of shelter that go beyond our immediate selves. This truth invites us to see every small action as part of umbrella making. You may think that holding your tongue when anger rises is insignificant, but in that moment, you add strength to your umbrella. You may believe that offering a kind word to a stranger is trivial, yet that word may inspire trust, and trust is another thread of fabric. Bit by bit, stitch by stitch, you are preparing for storms not yet seen, and storms will always come. No human life is free of illness, loss, disappointment, or grief. The Buddha himself did not promise escape from suffering. What he offered was a path to meet suffering with wisdom, courage, and compassion. Virtue is a central part of that path. It does not deny pain but helps us endure it without drowning. It does not erase karma but ensures we walk through it with dignity. Think of the umbrella again. Even with one, your shoes may still get wet, the wind may blow rain sideways, your shoulders may feel the chill, but you remain upright, protected enough to keep moving. Virtue works in the same way. It does not keep us spotless, but it keeps us from collapse. It preserves what matters most, our clarity of mind and our compassion for others. So when you reflect on your own life, ask, am I weaving my umbrella each day? Do my words, my choices, my gestures add threads to the fabric of virtue, or do they tear holes? This is not a question of guilt, but of care. We are all caught in the same reins. Each act of virtue is another patch, another stitch, another rib of strength. In time, your umbrella becomes wide enough, not only for you, but for those you love. And perhaps, as your virtue deepens, strangers, too, will find shelter at your side. That is the quiet power of virtue, not to banish storms, but to give us shade, to keep us walking, and to remind us that even in the hardest rains, we are not defenseless. Part 2. Stories of protection through virtue. Stories have a way of carrying wisdom straight to the heart. They allow us to see truths not only as ideas but as living experiences. When we hear about how virtue has sheltered someone, it is like watching an umbrella unfold in a storm. The stories may be simple, but their lessons sink deep. Consider first the story of a man who lived with integrity for many years. He was not perfect, no one is, but he consistently treated others with fairness, helped when he could, and refrained from gossip or harm. One day, he made a mistake at work. a serious one that could have cost him his position. In another situation, such an error might have ended in harsh punishment or immediate dismissal. Yet when his mistake came to light, his colleagues and supervisors remembered his years of honesty and kindness. They did not excuse the error, but they forgave him, offering guidance instead of condemnation. His virtue became a shield. It did not erase the mistake, but it softened its consequence. This is the umbrella of virtue in action. Without it, he would have stood alone in the rain, judged only by his failure. With it, he was sheltered by the trust and goodwill he had patiently built. His karma, his action, had consequences, but his virtue transformed those consequences from a crushing storm into a passing shower. Another story comes from the life of a respected monk who lived in a region often struck by drought. In one particular year, the land was parched, rivers shrank, and the fields cracked under relentless Sunday. The people were desperate. Out of deep faith, they asked the monk to pray for rain. He did not claim supernatural power, but he agreed to lead them in chanting and sincere aspiration. Shortly after, clouds gathered and rain began to fall. The villagers celebrated, attributing the rain to his prayers. Yet the monk himself explained it differently. It was not magic, not a miracle, but the power of virtue. His decades of discipline, compassion, and selflessness had created a presence that touched hearts. The people gathered around him with pure faith, their collective sincerity amplifying the energy of goodwill. The conditions ripened, and rain came. To some, it looked like a miracle. To those who understand the Dharma, it was the natural unfolding of causes and conditions shaped by virtue. The umbrella was so broad that it sheltered not only the monk himself, but an entire community. These stories reveal a profound truth. Virtue does not only protect the individual, it radiates outward. A person of virtue becomes like a tree whose shade offers relief to many. When trouble arises, others are willing to help, not because of obligation, but because their hearts are naturally drawn to someone who has given them kindness in the past. Think of the opposite for a moment. Imagine someone who has lived selfishly, using others for gain, cutting corners, and speaking harshly. When misfortune strikes, even those around them may hesitate to help. People remember how they were treated. In this case, karma ripens without the softening touch of virtue, and the rain falls hard. The contrast shows us why virtue is essential. It shapes the environment in which karma matures. Buddhist teachings often describe this as the difference between heavy karma falling on hard ground and heavy karma falling on soft earth. On hard ground, the impact is loud and severe. On soft earth, the blow is absorbed and cushioned. Virtue is that softness. It cannot stop the stone from falling, but it makes the landing less destructive. The monk's story also illustrates another layer. Virtue creates harmony with unseen forces. Many cultures have spoken of spirits, nature, or even the collective unconscious being moved by sincere virtue. While we need not explain it in mystical terms, we can observe the reality. When someone of deep integrity speaks or acts, people listen with trust. Their words carry weight not because of status, but because of the fragrance of their life. This harmony is itself protective, like a vast umbrella stretched across the sky. One more story can deepen our reflection. There was once an elderly woman who lived with little wealth. She owned a single rosary made of simple beads, worn smooth by years of reciting the Buddha's name. To outsiders, the beads were worthless, but her devotion and compassion infused them with a quiet power. Whenever someone in her village felt distressed or even claimed to be haunted by troubling dreams, she would place her rosary in their hands and whisper blessings. Time and again, those who received her care felt comforted, calmed, sometimes even healed. People said it was her beads, but in truth, it was her virtue. Her humble life was a living umbrella. Though she owned almost nothing, Her presence offered shade to others. Her example reminds us that virtue does not require wealth or status. It is woven through simple acts, kindness, patience, sincerity. And once woven, it becomes a shield not only for ourselves but for those we touch. These stories echo the Buddha's teaching that virtue is the true protection. Temples may crumble, wealth may vanish, even health may decline, but the shelter of virtue endures. It works quietly, invisibly, often unnoticed until the storm arrives. Then suddenly, we realize its worth. In reflecting on these stories, it is important not to think of virtue as a guarantee. The man who made a mistake at work was still corrected. The monk's community still faced drought before the rain came. The elderly woman still lived in poverty. Virtue does not erase karma, nor does it promise endless ease. But it changes the texture of experience. It transforms punishment into guidance, despair into hope, loneliness into connection. This is the lesson for us. The umbrella of virtue is not about avoiding the rain, but about walking through it with dignity and grace. When we live each day with honesty, compassion, and humility, we are stitching that umbrella, preparing for storms we cannot yet see. And when the rains come, as they always do, we find ourselves sheltered, not by accident, but by the quiet strength we have patiently built. Part 3. Virtue as collective shelter. An umbrella is rarely held only for oneself. Anyone who has walked through rain with a friend knows the instinct to tilt the canopy so that both can share its cover. Virtue works in the same way. It is not confined to the person who cultivates it. By its very nature, virtue spreads outward, protecting families, communities, and even societies. The shelter it provides is not visible, but it can be felt in the atmosphere of trust, safety, and compassion it creates. Think of a family where one parent embodies virtue. Their words are steady, their actions fair, their heart guided by kindness. Even when difficulties arise, illness, financial strain, misunderstandings, the family does not fall apart. The children may feel worried, but they sense the calm presence of a parent who lives with integrity. This becomes their umbrella. They learn by example that storms can be endured without cruelty or despair. Over time, these children grow into adults who carry their own umbrellas of virtue, extending the shelter to the next generation. Now, consider the workplace. A leader who rules with fear may extract results for a time, but the atmosphere is heavy, like constant rain without shelter. People walk with lowered heads, waiting for the next harsh word. When crisis hits, such a leader finds no one willing to stand close. In contrast, a leader who practices patience and fairness creates a different climate. Employees feel safe to speak honestly, to admit mistakes, to support one another. When the storm of economic hardship comes, the company may still struggle, but the people endure together. The leader's virtue has spread like a broad umbrella, keeping the group united under pressure. Communities, too, are shaped by the presence or absence of virtue. History offers many examples of towns or villages that flourished not because of wealth alone, but because of the character of their leaders and elders. Where generosity, fairness, and mutual respect were practiced, people felt secure. Neighbors looked out for each other, disputes were resolved with wisdom rather than revenge, and even outsiders felt welcome. This atmosphere is the fragrance of collective virtue. It cannot be forced by law or purchased with money. It grows naturally when individuals commit to living rightly. The Buddha once described virtue as a field of blessing. When a farmer plants in fertile soil, the harvest is abundant. When seeds fall on barren land, little grows. A community where people practice virtue is like fertile soil. Into it fall seeds of effort, creativity, and cooperation, and from it rises peace and prosperity. A community without virtue is barren. Seeds may be scattered in abundance, but little takes root. This is why the umbrella image is so powerful. One person's virtue not only shields themselves, but creates a space where others can flourish. Another way to see this is through the ripple effect. Imagine dropping a pebble into a still pond. The circles widen far beyond the point of contact. When one person lives with virtue, their behavior touches those nearby, who then carry the influence outward. A kind word in a moment of tension may calm a friend, who then speaks gently to their child, who then shows patience at school. By evening, dozens of lives have been touched by one act of virtue. In this sense, the umbrella of virtue can be vast, stretching across time and space in ways we may never see. There are countless stories of individuals whose personal virtue became shelter for many. One well-known tale tells of a teacher who lived simply, devoting his life to service. He never sought fame, but his integrity was so consistent that even officials and merchants respected him. When political unrest threatened his region, his presence calmed both sides. People trusted him, not because of authority, but because of the steady umbrella of his character. His virtue prevented violence, saved lives, and guided the community back toward peace. This story is not rare. All of us know someone whose quiet goodness creates a safe space. Perhaps it is a neighbor who always helps without expecting return, or a colleague who diffuses conflict with calm words. Their virtue becomes a shelter we step under without even realizing, and when we feel its protection, we are reminded to create the same for others. The collective nature of virtue also points to responsibility. We may be tempted to think, I will live rightly for my own sake, to ease my own karma. But the truth is deeper. Our virtue, or lack of it, always touches others. A harsh word from us may echo through a household, while a patient response may restore peace. Our umbrella is never only ours. Each decision either strengthens or weakens the canopy under which many stand. In modern life, this truth is especially urgent. Global challenges, climate change, social division, economic inequality are storms that no individual can escape alone. Virtue becomes not just personal practice but collective survival. Honesty in public life, compassion in policies, fairness in systems, these are forms of collective umbrellas. Without them, the rain soaks us all. With them, even great storms can be endured with dignity and hope. At a personal level, cultivating virtue as collective shelter means being mindful of how our actions ripple. It means asking, does my choice widen the umbrella, or does it poke holes in the fabric? When we forgive someone, we widen it. When we give without pride, we widen it. When we speak truthfully with kindness, we widen it. And each widening makes space for others to breathe more easily beneath the storm. The lesson of virtue as collective shelter brings us back to compassion. Compassion is the essence of the umbrella. It is what makes us tilt the canopy so that others may walk dry beside us. Without compassion, virtue becomes rigid, self-centered, a shield held only for the self. With compassion, virtue becomes vast, extending naturally, like the sky. In the end, the image is simple but profound. We live in a world where rain will always fall. Karma ripens, storms come, difficulties arrive. Alone, we may shiver under the downpour. Together, beneath the umbrella of virtue, we can endure with warmth, dignity, and even joy. Our task is not only to hold the umbrella for ourselves, but to keep widening it, stitching it, and tilting it so that many can share the shelter. In doing so, we embody the deepest promise of the Dharma, that liberation is not only for one, but for all. Chapter 5. Compassion, sympathetic joy, and letting go, the root of virtue. Part 1. The Four Immeasurables. When the Buddha spoke about the qualities that make a human life radiant, he did not begin with power, wealth, or even knowledge. He pointed instead to the heart. He taught of 4 immeasurable states of mind, virtues so expansive that they cannot be measured, like the open sky. They are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Together they are called the 4 sublime states. They are not lofty ideals reserved for saints. They are living qualities we can nurture in our daily lives, in our families, in our workplaces, in the quiet moments of reflection when no one is watching. Loving kindness, the first of these, is the simple wish that others be well and happy. It is not dependent on who the person is, what they believe, or how they behave. It is the unshaken wish that all beings experience safety, peace, and joy. Imagine greeting someone with a smile that says, "May you be well." That smile does not cost anything, yet it carries the fragrance of loving kindness. In a world where words can wound and silence can isolate, even a glance of sincere goodwill becomes medicine. Loving kindness is not sentimental, it is strength of heart. The second is compassion, which arises when loving kindness meets suffering. Compassion is the wish that others be free from pain, fear, and hardship. When we see someone stumble, compassion reaches out a hand. When we hear of someone grieving, compassion listens with patience. Compassion is not pity, it is not looking down on another. It is recognizing our shared humanity and saying quietly, "Your pain is also mine." The Buddha once said that to see suffering clearly is the beginning of wisdom, and to respond with compassion is the beginning of true virtue. The third is sympathetic joy. This quality may be the hardest for many of us. It means rejoicing in the happiness of others without envy or comparison, to feel glad when someone else succeeds, to celebrate when a friend finds love, to smile when a colleague is praised. This is sympathetic joy. Often we think happiness is scarce, like a pie with only so many slices. But the truth is, joy multiplies when shared. When we practice sympathetic joy, we free ourselves from the burden of jealousy and discover that another's success does not diminish our own worth. The heart grows lighter, freer, and more spacious. The fourth is equanimity, which might sound distant, but in truth is the most intimate. Equanimity is the capacity to hold life's ups and downs without clinging or pushing away. It is not indifference, but balance. When praised, we remain steady. When criticized, we remain steady. When fortune comes, we remain steady. When fortune fades, we remain steady. Equanimity is the deep trust that life is changeful, that nothing lasts forever, and that peace comes not from control, but from letting go. The Buddha compared equanimity to the earth itself. People may dig into it, pour water on it, throw waste upon it, or plant flowers in it. The earth receives all without preference. In the same way, equanimity receives life's conditions with calm acceptance. These 4 sublime states are not separate islands. They flow into one another like rivers into the sea. Loving kindness gives rise to compassion when suffering is present. Compassion, when it witnesses relief, blossoms into sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy, when practiced with balance, rests in equanimity. And equanimity, when it softens into warmth, returns to loving kindness again. It is a circle, a living current. The teachings become clearer through examples. Imagine a mother watching her child learn to walk. Each step is greeted with loving kindness. "May you be well." When the child falls and cries, compassion arises. "May you be free from pain." When the child takes a step and beams with pride, the mother shares sympathetic joy. "Your happiness is my happiness." And when the child stumbles again and again, the mother's equanimity steadies her. Falling and rising are both part of learning. In this small scene, the four sublime states are alive, natural, and human. The Buddha encouraged his followers to cultivate these states, not in rare moments, but as daily practice. He described them as boundless, like the light of a lamp that shines in all directions. Just as a lamp does not choose who may benefit from its glow, so the four sublime states are to be extended without discrimination, not only to those we love, but also to strangers, and even to those who oppose us. To practice this is not easy. It requires patience, humility, and courage. But each time we extend kindness where none is expected, each time we forgive when we could resent, each time we rejoice when we might envy, each time we stay calm when we could despair, we are cultivating the roots of virtue. Consider what happens when these qualities are absent. Without loving kindness, relationships grow cold. Without compassion, suffering multiplies. Without sympathetic joy, jealousy corrodes the heart. Without equanimity, we are tossed about by every wave of praise and blame. Life without these states is a life without shelter, constantly exposed to the storms of craving and aversion. But life with them is a life under a great canopy, steady and peaceful. It is worth pausing to notice that these states are immeasurable. That means they cannot be counted, weighed, or exhausted. If we practice generosity of money, we may run out of wealth. But if we practice generosity of loving kindness, the more we give, the more arises. Compassion deepens with use. Joy expands as it is shared. Equanimity grows stronger each time it steadies us. This is why they are called sublime. They belong to a dimension beyond scarcity. One of the Buddha's disciples once asked how to meditate on these qualities. The Buddha advised, begin by focusing on loving kindness toward one person, perhaps someone close. Let the feeling of goodwill fill the heart until it becomes steady. Then, gradually extend it outward, to friends, to neutral people, to those with whom we struggle, and finally, to all beings without boundary. This practice is not about reciting words alone, but about transforming the heart. The same method can be applied to compassion, joy, and equanimity. With time, they grow as natural as breathing. In modern life, the four sublime states remain as relevant as ever. Each time we scroll through the news or witness conflict, we have a choice: to add to the fire of anger and envy, or to water the seeds of virtue. When someone succeeds, we can rejoice instead of compare. When someone suffers, we can care instead of ignore. When our own life rises and falls, we can meet it with balance instead of panic. These choices, repeated daily, build the character that endures when all else fades. Ultimately, the four sublime states are not just practices, they are the essence of virtue itself. To live with them is to carry a steady lamp into the darkness. It is to embody the umbrella that shields not only ourselves but others. It is to root our lives in what no storm can wash away. As you listen, perhaps take a quiet breath and reflect. Which of these qualities do I already practice? Which might I nurture more? Do I offer kindness freely? Do I open my heart to suffering? Do I celebrate others with joy? Do I meet change with calm? Each question is not a demand, but an invitation. The answers unfold slowly, like blossoms opening to the Sunday. The Buddha called these four states immeasurable because they cannot be limited. There is no end to how much loving kindness we can offer, no end to how much compassion we can embody, no end to the joy we can share, no end to the calm balance we can hold. They are infinite qualities, and when they become the ground of our life, we find ourselves rooted in a virtue that no storm of karma can uproot. Part 2. Stories of true forgiveness and release. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult yet liberating acts a human being can offer. We often speak the words, "I forgive you," but the heart may still hold on. The wound still aches, the memory still burns, the mind still repeats the offense. Real forgiveness, however, is not just the words. It is the capacity to let go so fully that the burden no longer clings. It is not weakness. It is the deepest strength of the heart. There is a saying, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free, and then discover that the prisoner was you." When we cling to resentment, it is as though we carry a heavy stone inside our chest. We may think the stone punishes the one who hurt us, but in truth, it only weighs down our own steps. Forgiveness does not erase what happened. It changes our relationship to what happened. It opens the hand that was clenched into a fist. It releases the tightness that kept us from breathing fully. A story is told of a monk who was insulted harshly by a villager. The words were sharp, cruel, meant to humiliate. Those around expected the monk to respond with anger or retreat in silence. Instead, he listened quietly and then bowed gently to the man. When asked later why he did not reply, the monk said, "If someone brings you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The students answered, "It remains with the giver." The monk smiled. "So it is with anger. If I do not take it in, it stays with him." This simple story reveals the essence of forgiveness. It is not about denying that harm was done. It is about choosing not to carry the harm forward. By refusing to grasp the insult, the monk was free. The villager's anger did not become his burden. This is true release, not just forgiving with words, but forgetting in the sense of no longer carrying the weight in memory. The Buddha often emphasized that clinging to resentment is like holding a burning coal with the intent of throwing it at another. You are the one who gets burned. To forgive, then, is to put down the coal. It is to refuse to harm yourself further by nourishing hatred. But forgiveness is not always easy. Some wounds run deep. Some betrayals pierce the heart so profoundly that even years later, they ache. In such cases, forgiveness may come slowly, in layers. The Buddha never demanded perfection overnight. Instead, he encouraged patience. Even the wish to forgive, even the intention to move toward release, is already a noble beginning. Just as a seed does not blossom into a tree in one day, the heart may need time to soften. Consider a woman who carries bitterness toward her brother for many years. He wronged her in business, and their relationship shattered. Each holiday, she recalls the betrayal. Each time his name is spoken, her chest tightens. One day, she hears a teaching on forgiveness and decides to try. She sits quietly and whispers in her heart, "May I be free from this resentment." She does not force herself to excuse